What is happening, everyone? We've got an interesting show lineup today. So I have been waiting on these Thread 3 documents to be dropped by George Knapp for a while now. He's given us little bits and pieces over the years since it occurred. And at the last UAP hearing, he talked about giving all of it up, right? Like giving everything over. And he said that he did, literally thousands of pages. Well, finally we got a drop yesterday. And the drop, it can't be everything, because I think it's definitely not thousands of pages. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about Thread 3, kind of like what that meant. Thread 3 was the overall Soviet program. I just want to read you a few quotes from the actual paperwork. In 1978, a system of scientific research was created for the collection and treatment of information on anomalous aerospace phenomena. So they don't call it UFO or UAP, they call it AAP, anomalous aerospace phenomena. The research was conducted not only by the Ministry of Defense, but also by organizations of the Academy of Sciences and the defense industry. Again, these are direct quotes. Thread 3 was an analysis program. The purpose of the research was to determine the nature, mechanism of origin, and possible application of anomalous aerospace phenomena. The observed objects demonstrated the ability for sudden acceleration, hovering, silent movement, and sharp changes of direction. These characteristics cannot be explained by known aerodynamic principles. A couple of quotes here from the Russian military side of that paper. Cases were recorded of the influence of anomalous phenomena on aircraft equipment, navigation systems, and radio communications. The impact on military objects required special analysis. And it even gets into biological effects on humans. The effects of anomalous phenomena on the human organism were noted, including changes in psychological and physiological state. Long-term consequences were observed in certain cases. And one of the more interesting focuses human interaction and perceptions. Special attention was given to the peculiarities of interaction with the environment and people. Anomalous phenomena were repeatedly observed in the vicinity of strategically important facilities. And finally, when the program ended, this is a quote from the actual paperwork, the research was discontinued, but the accumulated materials remain of scientific interest. So very, very interesting stuff here. Now, we're also going to go over, Eric Davis was on the Soul Foundation Network, and he said that Bush Sr. was sort of accidentally briefed on Nordic beings in a specific UFO landing that's been part of the lore for a while now. And then finally, we had UAP Gerb on American Alchemy talking about NHI bodies and where they could possibly be. Pretty shocking stuff. So we're going to start it off with some video here, some highlights of our subjects, and then we're going to get into it.
The liaison officer mistakenly thought that Bush had been read in on the UAP subject. And so he started blabbing off about the latest on that. And Bush said, no, wait a minute, what are we talking about here? And the liaison officer told him, I thought you had been briefed on this by your senior staff. And he said, no, actually, I haven't been briefed on that topic, if yet, or if at all, I have not. And so the liaison officer then had already let loose the information, so he went ahead and completed the rest of that briefing, and that's when Bush learned about a landing at an Air Force base in New Mexico by a UFO, humanoid type, non-human intelligence came off the craft and actually met with uniformed senior Air Force officers and some civilian CIA personnel. And they went up.
And you're referring to an event that is often just called the Holloman landing.
The
Holloman Air Force Base in April of 1964.
There are probably laboratories that house deceased non-human biologics.
Are you in touch with anybody who has seen an alien body?
Yeah.
And what do they say about the bodies?
Well,
and are they cryonically frozen, or these people weren't like abducted? They're like seen in a government context. Like these bodies are being stored.
Retrieval.
Yeah. Or during a crash.
What always comes up is the gray aliens. It's a very the wraparound eyes, almond-shaped heads, large black eyes, gray, tan, brownish skin. That's
the common
specifically
trope.
In an egg.
Yeah.
In a manned egg that somebody was present for a retrieval for.
So what about not on a retrieval? What about these bodies stored in military facilities?
A place out in California.
Oh.
An unnamed place. A place that doesn't have its own designation. I don't even know who the heck runs it.
Whoa.
Like one of those in plain sight things and corporate.
Can you say where?
I'm not sure exactly where SoCal.
Okay.
SoCal region. Not Antelope Valley, but Antelope Valley probably deals with tech more, but
and you think and you feel confident in this whistleblower, or not whistleblower, this person who's contacted you?
Yeah. That's the person I would stake my entire rep on.
Then comes this high-level Russian scientist to Las Vegas. We have a couple of beers, ask him about UFOs. You ever hear anything about it? He goes, no, don't think so. Doesn't ring a bell. We have one more beer. He goes, You know, now that you mention it,
Behind the scenes, George planned a high-stakes trip in 1993 with Russia in turmoil and sources ready to talk.
we met with this guy, Boris Sokolov, who had been the head of what was then the largest UFO investigation conducted by a government in the history of the world. I won't explain exactly how I got access to the files, but I did. Thousands of pages from the Russian Ministry of Defense. These documents, in those days at least, the Russian Ministry of Defense would stamp classification on the top page of the document, and the rest of them weren't marked at all. It was clear they're military documents, but without that classification, it's a lot less onerous and dangerous. I just removed the top pages of all those documents. And I threw the rest of it in my suitcase. Maybe we'll find out more from the Russians about what our government knows about UFOs than we'll ever learn from our government itself, which is true. We did.
Are you apprehensive at all that some of the stuff that they're releasing is bullshit?
Of course. I mean, we have a history of disinformation and misinformation put out to the public and to Congress by the intelligence community, by the Pentagon. They lie all the time. It's part of the turf. It's part of the job. But for them to then go into closed door briefings with members of Congress, with the oversight committees who handle their budgets, for them to lie about that, that's another matter. I want to move on now to the Russia files, because that was going to be sort of the central impetus of what I was going to talk to you about today. Back in the early 90s, I got into Russia, met with a number of their defense officials, Ministry of Defense and others, who confirmed for me that Russia had been doing the same thing the United States had been doing, that is, secretly studying UFOs while publicly saying something completely different. The documents and interviews that I obtained and have now shared with this task force show that the USSR launched what is almost certainly the largest UFO UAP investigation in the world. The first phase of that was an order was sent out to the entire USSR military empire that every unit, you see anything strange in the sky, a craft, an orb, something unusual, you had to gather all the evidence, collect testimony from the witnesses, look for physical evidence, and all of that information went into one program at the Ministry of Defense. Thousands and thousands of these reports came in. A lot of them were first routed to the KGB, but then back to another program that came after this collection effort called Thread 3. And Thread 3 was an analysis program. We have provided to the committee the documents of what they were trying to do, and essentially they were trying to build their own UFOs. They were using the information from their observations and studies to try to figure out the technology. The guy who was in charge of that program, Colonel Boris Sokolov, told me that their goal was to basically develop technology that would be superior to anything we had, based on what they learned from UFOs.
How much of these alleged Russian crash retrieval documents have already been physically out there? So, I mean, percentage-wise of the documents that you submitted to Congress, what was public already and what was not newly?
Maybe 1%.
Okay, so the rest of it should be predominantly new information.
Yep.
Also, can you just elaborate real quick? I know you had, I think, mentioned a Thread 3 program, but also alleged in those documents, I got through maybe half of them last night. There's a lot, and I don't speak Russian. Was there any specific programs that existed within the Soviet government or groups to specifically investigate this by name real quick?
It's a number. There's a number in those documents I gave you. There was a larger program that actually had 3 sub-programs. That was Thread 3 was the name I got, and then the DIA guys who looked at it figured out there was a much larger organization.
It's listed in those documents?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the secret's out. I mean, how many videos have there been already? You know, videos that are leaked from within the military and intelligence agencies and contractors and sensor platforms. It's out there. But they have the high ground. The people that don't want us to take it seriously dismiss it, discredit the witnesses, come up with a cover story. I mean, it's been out there a long time. The public senses that it's real, and the people in authority dismiss them. It's a game that's been going on a long time, and I don't think they're ever going to release it. I think that there's an attitude among the people that have been involved in this for a long time that the public doesn't deserve to know, and that the public probably can't handle it, but they can.
But they can, he says. And the Thread 3 documents, so what we were able to get out of them, well, first, let me just pull them up here so we can take a look, shall we? So this is what dropped. And looking through it, you can see this was, scanned in. very well, kind of diagonally. Not the most exciting read, but I went ahead and I've gathered a lot of the highlights together so we don't have to read this whole thing and fall asleep this Friday evening. So, kind of the first major point, obviously, is that the USSR ran a long-term centralized UFO program. It ran at least from 78 to 88. We know it for sure based on the paperwork ran for those 10 years. Most likely it's still ongoing. What we can gather is the Soviet Ministry of Defense coordinated a nationwide UFO research and analysis program. It included the Ministry of Defense, the USSR Academy of Sciences, Defense Industry Institutes, aviation, space, and nuclear sectors. So very similar to what we were doing over here, just in their own kind of Soviet Union ways. So this kind of contradicts the idea that, UFOs were just this American thing or this fringe topic. We have Russia on the other side of the world dealing with the same phenomena. And it mirrors a lot of what whistleblowers have been claiming for years and years. So it's a shame that this stuff didn't come out earlier. That the Soviet Union very quietly ran a decade-long UFO program. It involved nuclear scientists and their defense agencies. So Thread 3 was the analysis and exploitation program, not collection program. And they make that very clear. It's described as an analysis program, not a sighting catalog. And its purposes were for understanding the mechanisms of UFO movement. How are they defying gravity the way that they do? Assessing and then technological exploitation of that. And then studying effects on weapon systems, aircrafts, and electronics, and possibly using them for warfare. And this aligns exactly with what Knapp's testimony about the Thread 3 focused on, understanding and reproducing the capabilities, as we saw him just testify to. So it's a very strong parallel between what we were doing here in the United States and what they were doing there in Russia. I mean, it's basically almost the same damn thing. Very, very similar program. So Russia wasn't just studying UFOs. They wanted to know how they worked so they could exploit that technology. Another important piece in here is that UFOs did interact with military assets and electronics. So UAP encounters reportedly caused disruption of avionics, effects on radar, interference with electronic systems, and physical effects on pilots and observers. Again, matching up very closely with what we've heard from whistleblowers for a very long time here. The physical effects on pilots and observers. We've talked about the Eric Davis paper on the UAP injuries. We've gone through that. We had Steve on here to clarify some of those things. But essentially, very, very similar to what we were seeing here in the U.S. As far as these, reproduction programs. And all right, we got a little bit of company here tonight. Mr. Hunter Ryan from Slipbook. Welcome, sir. We are just going over these UFO Thread 3 documents. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear
Okay,
me is
cool,
the
cool,
question.
cool. Oh, I'm doing good, man. Doing really good. I can hear you
I-
perfect.
Yeah, I think there might be a
Yeah,
delay
but
or something.
Is there? Okay.
I think
What's
so.
going on though? What do you got? What you got going? Can you hear me though? Like I'm saying, like right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right.
Yep, I got you.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah, so we're looking at this document. Basically, George Knapp has teased out this Thread Three thing since the 90s. And finally, just yesterday, the website for the news station where he works dropped these documents here saying they are the Thread 3 documents. The first thing that's kind of weird, though, is that I thought they said it was like thousands of pages. And this is, let me pull it up here just to confirm, a total of 70 pages.
So what's it entailing though? What's the premise of the papers? Like, what is it talking about?
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was getting into. It's very similar to what we had going here, right? So they had this UFO program that involved the Ministry of Defense, Academy of Sciences, the Defense Industry Institutes, aviation, space, and nuclear sectors. And they were investigating it just like we were. They weren't publicizing what they were doing, but they were definitely investigating it.
Okay.
There was a analysis and exploitation program. So the idea was we want to figure out how it works so that we can then exploit it and use it against our enemies, essentially.
Makes sense.
And yeah, it's exactly what we were doing here, right? They had a bunch of reports of UFOs, UAPs messing with their military, avionics, radar, interference with electric systems, and then physical effects on pilots and observers. They get a lot into the non-traditional propulsion, non-aerodynamic flight, sudden acceleration, hovering, silent movement, sharp directional changes. They explicitly state that these cannot be explained by conventional physics or aviation. So basically, their scientists submitted UFO flight characteristics defied known physics, which we've heard a lot, but to hear, these top scientists at the USSR actually kind of just say it as
well.
as
Are these these are the papers that are well known? Were well known to be part of a disinformation campaign by the Russian government.
The Thread 3 papers?
Yeah, these right here. I read not too long. I mean, I just read it earlier on X. I read a piece that somebody did on them. Yeah, it was Greenstreet. Stephen Greenstreet did one that this was tied to. That a bunch of generals have already warned our officials that this is part of a.
Oh, you know what? You know what else? This is the one that's been out there. Let me post the new one. I'm so sorry because I had the old one, and this is actually a new one that they just dropped. But I grabbed the wrong
Okay, I didn't know if it was Steven. I didn't know if it was Steve Greenstreet talking about that one or if it was the other one you're talking about.
No. This is they literally, like I was saying, the news station just dropped it yesterday. Here we go. Okay. It's saying the file is too big. Of course it is.
Of course it is.
Okay. At any rate, what I'll do, I'll put the link down below, folks, for those wanting to review the entire document. But yeah, this was just pushed out on the, KLAS website. So if you go to the KLS website where George Knapp works, you can download them there. but yes, essentially looking at the bullet points from the document, and just so you know, folks, the bullet points I've been reviewing are from the new document. I just accidentally loaded the old one that has been out there. So on top of the other stuff with, reverse engineering craft, they also had biological and physiological effects on humans. So, and we've talked about that here, right? Like health effects on people, neurological symptoms, psychological after effects, long-term physiological changes of witnesses. For instance, they talk a lot about Rendlesham, right? Or not, I'm sorry, not Rendlesham. What was the one? Where the
Rendlesham
lady,
was the one
where the lady lost her hair.
Yeah,
man. I just
where
did
the
a
kid
thing on it.
Yeah, it's the, I know who you're talking about. It's the
Cash Landrum.
Cash Landrum.
Right. Yeah. So there's that case,
Texas.
and there's also been
Texas
other.
Was it Texas or Arizona? But it was Texas or Arizona.
I think it was
one.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've had a lot of reports where people, they say they have these incidences or these interactions with UFOs or UAPs, and they get injured. Like Eric Mitchell, I had him on my show, and he was injured by this thing. It messed up his eyesight and gave him a concussion, and he went through savant syndrome, and like these are serious.
What happened with him? I'd seen a little bit of the interview, but I didn't get a chance to watch all of it. Like what actually happened to him during his little thing? I don't.
Well, during his experience, there was an orb that he saw. I don't know. He hasn't called it an orb, I don't think, but just some type of UAP, UFO that he saw near his home. And when he went out to, investigate it more closely, it essentially zapped him, knocked him on his ass. And he was just kind of out of it for a while. And then afterwards had problems with his vision. He had to get glasses, and then went through savant syndrome, which is, scary thing. I'll never have that trouble, but yeah, like all of a sudden getting like, twice as smart as you were, like that's crazy. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy thing. So we know, like, and he's not the only one. Like, there's so many instances where people have reported this, right? Like slide 9, where that was found on Christopher Mellon's, page, where it gets into a slide that defense officials were reviewing, talking about these things causing injuries, not just to people, but to like military personnel that had close interactions with these things. That these things could mess with your head. They can make you see things that aren't there. They can make you think things that aren't happening. Pretty crazy shit. The like Thread 3, yeah. So the Thread 3 program, the program was classified, and then it was quietly shut down. So the document does state that the program produced results. It was classified. It was discontinued without public explanation. It was not declared a failure, which could mean that it just went deep into a deeper frame of classification, as opposed to ending, right? Like I doubt they would just end it if they were finding stuff that was yielding results. Yeah. And again, this is according to Soviet Ministry of Defense documents. And that's all we have to go. We can't say whether this is all true, whether it's all real, but we can say that this is what we're getting from these documents that Knapp smuggled out of Russia all those years ago.
Oh, the
pretty
smuggler.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I mean, a lot of it sounds just like the programs we had here.
Yeah. Everybody's wanting to see what everybody's got. That's what I
right.
That's what I always pose it as, is they're probably spying on each other, and and they're just shooting each other with microwave weapons to figure shit out, and this is the result of it.
Well, that was a big thing with part of these documents as well, is that it gets into some of the American stuff. Like it gets into MJ12 and it gets into some of our reverse engineering stuff. So it actually, and George Knapp even said it in his testimony, like we got more insight into what was going on into the American program with the American programs at the time from those Russian documents than we did from anybody in the States. So those Russian documents kind of gave them the insight into what was going on here. But clearly somebody over in Russia thought the MJ12 thing was important enough to document and put in a classified paper. So that's kind of interesting. Because our FBI wrote that it was fake, bogus, right? They wrote bogus on every page and then distributed it out. That to me is like, well, now I think it's real because the FBI wrote bogus on every page. Like, how often do they do that?
Yeah.
What do you think, buddy? What are your thoughts on this stuff?
Man, you know me, dude. I stick to I always try to stay grounded and try to just it have a worldly explanation. But the way that people handle things, the way that our government handles shit, the way that there's no telling, dude. But it's crazy shit that goes on, and it's not even. It's a clown world. That's the best thing to.
Do you think does it legitimize some of the claims anymore to know that this other superpower across on the other side of the globe was also running these same programs?
Well, I like I said, I think all that is that we're of course going to have a reverse engineering program where we're like, if we fly something over there like we had before, that guy.
Oh, this isn't talking about technology. No, they clearly state UFOs in this paperwork.
Well, I think it's probably just to either mislead them or just like I said, I don't give it any kind of really credibility because it's basically when it's the government, another big government, the Russia, like they've never been the most trustworthy people, and we're not. So like. I don't put it off on the realm of like impossible, but I think it's highly unlikely. But
so you think this is two Cold War nations just like fucking with each other?
Yeah, well, there's probably a lot of. There's probably the reason behind it. It could be it's your guess, dude. Like it could be about oil. It could be about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my thing's down. Hold on one second, man. My thing's down.
You're good.
Hold on. Let's see here. There we go. That should do it. All right. Can you hear me still?
Oh yeah, buddy. I got you. Loud and clear.
All right. Yeah. But like I said, with the government, it's all shady, and it's what it could be. It's somebody serving a purpose for somebody somewhere, and there's a byproduct that somebody has gotten hurt, and a bunch of people think this, and man, they've muddied the water. So there's no telling, dude.
What? So Steve says, smuggle my ass. Knapp's employer in the early 90s paid a bunch of money for some shady intel brokers selling alleged old Soviet files of shady origin. Could easily be faked or Soviet propaganda. So, but that would mean. So if that's true, that means that Knapp lied under oath? Because under oath that he took the top page off of those papers and put them in his briefcase, and
he's also said a lot of things, man. I think he's just shady, and you're never going to get the whole treat. He uses words and semantics just like everybody else to try to act like it's something it's not. And like I said, I don't trust anything George Knapp does. Nothing. And if he tells me that it's going to rain tomorrow, I am not bringing an umbrella, dude.
Why
it's
is
like
that?
Yeah. he's just not credible, dude. I mean, he's nothing he's ever said has panned out to be the truth. I mean,
when did he lose credibility in your eyes?
Long ago, many years ago. Like the Bob, just, I mean, basically, if you think about it, I mean, I used to kind of believe what he said. I didn't know it was up for a debate, but now, I mean, I would say within the past 4 or 5 years, I've come to know him as, old Knapp, the bullshitter.
Is there anything in particular he did, or was it just like
it just existed,
compilation of everything, or?
It was just breathing my oxygen one day, and I was just like, no more of that shit. I'm just kidding. Man, just because all his reporting is just about to get people stirred up, and it's all about it's all about aliens and this and I heard that he did a good job as far as like bringing down a lot of crime and stuff in Las Vegas. So I'm not saying he's not like a useless reporter or journalist. I'm just saying he's kind of went off into the territory of just anybody giving him something and him running with it, kind of like Elizondo. I think of,
well, not anybody. Kind of he said my boy Dan Bursch was full of shit.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I mean, why do you find him credible? How about that? Like, why do you?
I don't know if I do or not. I really don't. To me, it's risky to testify under oath and lie. Like, especially when you're giving specifics of a story. Like he said, when he went to Russia, he said names of people he met. He said exactly how he smuggled it in. So, like, if you can go out and prove any of that's bullshit, he can get in trouble for perjury. And not that anybody would actually prosecute it, but he could.
Who's gonna? But who's gonna give him for perjury? Like, what does he have to lose? Like, I mean, they probably told him like, hey, this is super secret. But like, let's think about it. In Russia, do you think Russia is going to let him walk away with papers?
Well,
just tear him out?
At the fall of the Soviet Union, hell yes, everything was for sale.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe at the fall of the Soviet Union, I could see that.
That's when he said he went.
And what year was that? 90, 91,
92, 93, something like that. Yeah, that's when he said he went. He named the general that he talked to. He said he went there because he figured everything was for sale over there at that point, and everything kind of was. I mean, you could buy a tank from. How do you think Iraq got all their tanks? Like, they bought them from the old Soviet Union. Like,
yeah, you're right.
But yeah, I am like. But you're right. He could totally bullshit still, because to get in trouble for perjury, somebody would have to go and do the footwork and care enough to do it.
Yeah. It's like I said, he definitely generates interest. As far as like he gets go. Let me get my thing here. Hold on. He generates interest. And he gets people talking and but other than that, it's never really talking about anything. I think is super productive or but then again, I don't watch his newscast. I just see his highlights and stuff, so I can't really say like everything that about him. But from what I know, I don't trust him. Like, he's a snake in the grass, and that Corbell with him, dude. Corbell.
Well, I'm gonna here. Let me do this, because I think you probably missed it. I'm gonna run it back. I'm gonna run back the intro here.
The liaison officer mistakenly thought that Bush had been read in on the UAP subject. And so he started blabbing off about the latest on that. And Bush said, no, wait a minute, what are we talking about here? And the liaison officer told him, I thought you had been briefed on this by your senior staff. And he said, no, actually, I haven't been briefed on that topic, if yet, or if at all, I have not. And so the liaison officer then had already let loose the information. So he went ahead and completed the rest of that briefing. And that's when Bush learned about a landing at an Air Force base in New Mexico by a UFO, humanoid type, non-human intelligence came off the craft and actually met with uniformed senior Air Force officers and some civilian CIA personnel. And they went up.
And you're referring to an event that is often just called the Holloman landing.
The Holloman
Holloman Air.
Holloman landing.
Dude, I had a the other night or the other day I talked to a woman who I met on a Facebook post. She somebody had put, and I put my 2 cents in, so I started talking to her. And anyway, so I ended up she's 50 something years old. She's a super awesome lady, but I talked to her over Facebook, video, and I was kind of telling her about my theory on orbs and everything, Chris Bledsoe, because she's just like big time into Chris Bledsoe and so I went over the Travis Walton thing with her and all that, and super cool chick, man. And I just gave her the facts, and she didn't know like half of the stuff that I had told her. And I told her about your show, and I said it'd be awesome if she came on here, and talked to you and stuff. And she said she didn't know about that, and I was like, well, because she's a pretty lady, and like she's really sweet and she's nice, and I don't know why she wouldn't want to come on, but she's got a good little story. She got a great attitude. For everybody. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like Scafish didn't seem to have much of a reaction there to Eric Davis saying George Bush Sr. Pappy was briefed on Nordic aliens at the Holloman Air Force Base incident.
Yeah. But why I was saying that is she showed me the video of that Holloman incident, and she was under the impression that was Jason Sands' video. Is that supposedly the one that Jason Sands said he saw? Because I think that's the one. I don't know.
Is that the one that's the video footage out at the military video footage from like Inside Edition or something back in the day?
Yeah. It just shows the little. No, okay. The one she's talking about is it's like a FLIR video, or not a FLIR. It's kind of like FLIR, but it might be night vision, or it was black and white. I know that, and it shows just a little zigzaggy, but it's really it's the camera moving. I can tell it's the camera moving in that, but she was under the impression that it was zigzagging back and forth, and I explained it to her and showed her how
the camera's shaking. Yeah,
but she was under the impression that Jason Sands was the one that released that, and that was his sighting or something. And I was like,
but Jason Sands hasn't released anything, just stories.
That's what I told her, but she said she distinctly remembers. She brought up the little post that said it. I forgot exactly what it said. I could message her and ask her what it was. But yeah, she.
I think Jason Sands is a very nice man. He's got a good sense of humor. But I don't know how much stock I can put into this story of killing an alien in a cave. Just seems super weird.
Yeah, it sounds too much. That sounds about like that sounds a little too much like old dude that died. The whistleblower that dug the dumbs down in
Schneider.
Snyder, yeah, Phil Snyder. Yeah, it sounds a little too much like
got in the little shootout.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it when he's like, as soon as he sees one, he's like, I saw one and he looked weird, so I took out my gun and shot him. Like, what? You just say hi first, or?
Yeah. It just automatically assumed that it was on. It was on, and probably he had to get 45 out, and he could have started World War freaking Z because he'd been an asshole and shoot him with a 45. It's his fault.
Oh my god! Like you're not like I come in peace first or anything. Just start shooting, huh?
Not Snyder.
All right. So what do you think of this? First off, what do you think of Eric Davis?
That guy right there.
He's responsible for so much of the lore that's out there. Probably more than people realize.
Then I don't trust him. Like I said, man, there isn't anybody in really this. But I trust you even more than I trust anybody else. You know what I'm saying? But in this, like none of them. If they're talking about it, bro, like I don't put any stock into anything that they're saying. He's probably it's every bit of it they heard from somebody. Nobody can pin down the source that like saw the alien. Hey guys, this is Glack 2. Got here he is. I want that guy. Like bring him here. Let's talk. To him.
Yeah.
Grush knows him, I guess, but like he doesn't. Nobody's bringing him out.
I was probably late to the party on Davis, but he lost me when he did that so-called paper with how put off To the Stars on Arts Parts. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
But so To the Stars Academy purchased Arts Parts from Linda Moulton Howe for like $35,000. Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff did a study on the metal.
The little piece she had. Okay.
Yes.
But I don't remember. What were the results?
So the results were that the metals there was nothing crazy about the metals. They could all be found on Earth and in our solar system. And they said, but what was crazy was that the way it was layered together, that we don't have a technology that could do that could layer these metals, different metals together so thinly. And then they didn't get it independently verified because the scientist that was going to independently verify it just couldn't get it in his schedule. So they released this so-called scientific paper with zero verification.
Yeah. Isn't that convenient though? Right.
Right. And then, right. So he lost me there. I'm like, okay, can't listen to Davis. And then I just had it reaffirmed when he went to the UAP, whatever it was, hearing, and he was telling Burleson about the alien species. I don't know if you remember that, but he's like, yeah, the reptilians and the grays and insectoids.
I did a video on it. I did a little bit.
Yes. That was Eric Davis. Right. And so that just furthered my, this guy's just going to repeat whatever somebody tells him.
Yeah.
He wants to believe too much.
Yeah. Probably
a little too much.
Yeah, it's all the telephone game, dude. It's just like, hey, and everybody adds to this and adds to that, and it's just a big fuckery in the end of it, dude. Excuse my language.
Yep. No, dude, please curse. So yes, this is I think the verdict on the Davis testimony is probably, you can see it on Scafish's face right now, not too impressed, right? Especially considering the source. Okay, check out UAP GERB on Michaels
Air Force Base in April of 1964.
There are probably laboratories that house deceased non-human biologics.
Are you in touch with anybody who has seen an alien body?
Yeah.
And what do they say about the bodies?
Well,
and are they cryonically frozen, or these people weren't like abducted? They're like seen in a government context. Like these bodies are being stored. Retrieval. Yeah.
What always,
or during a crash.
What always comes up is the gray aliens. It's the wraparound eyes, almond-shaped heads, large black eyes, gray, tan, brownish skin. That's
the common
specifically
trope.
In an egg.
Yeah.
In a manned egg that somebody was present for a retrieval for.
So what about not on a retrieval? What about these bodies stored in military facilities?
A place out in California.
Wow.
An unnamed place. A place that doesn't have its own designation. I don't even know who the heck runs it.
Whoa.
Like one of those in plain sight things, and corporate.
Can you say where?
I'm not sure exactly where SoCal.
Okay.
SoCal region. Not Antelope Valley, but Antelope Valley probably deals with tech more. But
and you think and you feel confident in this whistleblower, or not whistleblower, this person who's contacted you?
Yeah. That's the person I would stake my entire rep on.
He's either lying about something. Or he's on drugs. That dude.
He says in that interview at one point that the source that gave him that information, he reached out to them, they didn't reach out to him, and that he would never give the source up because he feels like they're legit. And he also said that they were a personal hero of his, whatever that means. So at any rate, gray alien bodies in Southern California, probably in some facility that looks like a tech building or something, right? You think they're working on microchips or something, and you go to the basement and there's Bob the alien or whatever. What do you think of that? It seems like that would be the way to do it, right? Like hide it in plain sight.
I don't know, man. I think I would ship it off on an island somewhere where you're really not going to worry about anybody getting it getting off.
Well, we saw that worked out for Epstein.
Yeah. Well, man, that was a different operation altogether. There,
That was a different island altogether. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. But I would go like Guam or something like Guam or somewhere, or like maybe the archipelago or something somewhere that like is off like I said, off the water or something that you can guard heavily, and somewhere where if something escapes, it's gonna have to go across the sea or something. So it'd probably be on an island dug down deep, and then something like that, perhaps. But I wouldn't, not in plain sight. Too much stuff could happen in plain sight, man. Like too many people could walk in. Hey, what's this building? Let's break in here. Too much of that shit. With an island, you don't have to worry about that. Pirates maybe, but it's hitting Jack Sparrow days, so I guess I'm not really much worried about that. So
yeah, that's a trip. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that we have these things?
No.
No,
probably not. No, if all right, hold on. Go back seriously. I think if we do have anything that's like this, it's something that we created, something that we grew, something some scientists got together and Frankenstein together.
Oh, that's
and
creepy.
And then maybe like maybe a lot of it was done in outer space or something. I don't know. It could have something tied into it. Maybe the zero. Maybe they tried to do an experiment with zero gravity. It would maybe making some kind of humanoid thing, and they succeeded because like we would never know about it. But if anything, something like that. But I definitely don't think anything's coming here from other galaxies. I just don't see that working out. And
well, that's why I get so interested in the time travel stuff, because it's like we know there's humans, and we know we tend to make technological breakthroughs every so often, right? And so like knowing that, we could at some point figure out a legitimate way to jump back in time. I don't think it's going to be like you think it is in the movies, but maybe we could figure out a way to manipulate or jump back in time. And
I don't. But would you really ever want them to do that?
I think it would depend.
I mean,
it's up to them, not us. Because the thing is, they have to. It's not like they could come back and wipe us out, because then they'd be wiping themselves out, right? So it's not like they're going to want to come back and cause harm.
Well, but I mean, they always say that it's like the grandfather paradox. Like you never know what's going to happen. So like one thing they change could change the course of history.
Turns out that's bullshit.
Why you think that?
So turns out the way most physicists look at look at time, and I have a video somewhere, but essentially major events that happen in time, they've already happened. You can't change them. So like you can't go back and stop somebody from killing Kennedy. And if somebody asks the question, well, what would stop you? The answer is something, because it's already done. It's already happened. So like you could go back and observe. You can't go back and change. Maybe you could nudge, but you can't change anything.
I just don't. I mean, I really wouldn't see being able to go back in future. Which I know what you're talking about. I know that the way time is looked at by Einstein and all them, it's like everything has happened and that's going to happen. It's happened. Everything is in the past, in the future, and then we're somewhere in here, but. Right. But I guess we're deterministic to wherever you're at. You can't change, your location. And
it does touch a little on like predeterminism a little bit for sure.
See, I mean, like I just don't see us being able to ever manipulate something like that, because that just seems like it's so far. Like we can't even like do. Most of us can't even be trusted to drive. Much less like go like back in time to make things right. Like too many people are greedy and too much bad shit can happen.
What if it's not to make things right? What if it's just to observe the end of us?
But usually it always starts as observation, and then it always ends up to multiplying into something else by somebody's greed. Again, like I said, we're humans, we're greedy.
Well, that's what Burrish said. He said that some of them decided to go back to like Egyptian times and used their technology to be worshipped as gods, right? And they just lived like gods for their whole life because they had that technology
who said that?
in ancient
Who said
times.
that?
Dan Burrish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a way out there possibility, but I feel like it's just as possible as some of the other theories with like extraterrestrials and stuff. But do we have an NHI? I think you touched on something too there with biologics and zero gravity, right? Because we know there's something to that with Tim Taylor too, right? Like they talk about he did this biomedical research in zero gravity. So like on a space station, right? The only place you could do something like that. Like we don't have zero gravity simulators, like in conspiracy theories we do, but not really.
They got the vomit comet, the the plane that goes up and down.
Right. But I mean, nothing that like you could do a scientific study in zero gravity on, other than the ISS or, if they send an X-37B up there or something.
Yeah, they have that one that they sent up there, the little smaller looking one, looks like a show. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one.
Right. So it could be when they say non-human biologics or off-world, biologic, that could exactly be what they're talking about. It could be in a petri dish,
Yeah.
So who knows? But fascinating stuff. Stuff. It's interesting to think about. I don't know. And honestly, like, I don't know anything about UAP GURB. I don't know.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, he seemed to have risen like a star. I mean, he's really just... Well, here, watch this. You can even see him. So this is the last part of the news update here. This is Knapp in the Thread 3. But I even make it a point to point UAP GURB out in the crowd. And this is at the hearing.
This high-level Russian scientist to Las Vegas. We have a couple of beers. I ask him about UFOs. You ever hear anything about it? He goes, no, don't think so. Doesn't ring a bell. We have one more beer. He goes, now that you mention it.
Behind the scenes, George planned a high-stakes trip in 1993 with Russia in turmoil and sources ready to talk.
We met with this guy,
93.
Boris Sokolov, who had been the head of what was then the largest UFO investigation conducted by a government in the history of the world. I won't explain exactly how I got access to the files, but I did. Thousands of pages from the Russian Ministry of Defense. These documents, in those days at least, the Russian Ministry of Defense would stamp classification on the top page of the document, and the rest of them weren't marked at all. It was clear they're military documents, but without that classification, it's a lot less onerous and dangerous. I just removed the top pages of all those documents. And I threw the rest of it in my suitcase. Maybe we'll find out more from the Russians about what our government knows about UFOs than we'll ever learn from our government itself, which is true. We did.
Are you apprehensive at all that some of the stuff that they're releasing is bullshit?
Of course.
I mean, we have a history of disinformation and misinformation put out to the public and to Congress by the intelligence community, by the Pentagon. They lie all the time. It's part of the turf. It's part of the job. But for them to then go into closed door briefings with members of Congress, with the oversight committees who handle their budgets, for them to lie about that, that's another matter. I want to move on now to the Russia files, because that was going to be sort of the central impetus of what I was going to talk to you about today. Back in the early 90s, I got into Russia, met with a number of their defense officials, Ministry of Defense and others, who confirmed for me that Russia had been doing the same thing the United States had been doing, that is, secretly studying UFOs while publicly saying something completely different. The documents and interviews that I obtained and have now shared with this task force show that the USSR launched what is almost certainly the largest UFO-UAP investigation in the world. The first phase of that was an order was sent out to the entire USSR military empire that every unit, you see anything strange in the sky, a craft, an orb, something unusual, you had to gather all the evidence, collect testimony from the witnesses, look for physical evidence, and all of that information went into one program at the Ministry of Defense. Thousands and thousands of these reports came in. A lot of them were first routed to the KGB, but then back to another program that came after this collection effort called Thread 3. And Thread 3 was an analysis program. We provided to the committee the documents of what they were trying to do, and essentially they were trying to build their own UFOs. They were using the information from their observations and studies to try to figure out the technology. The guy who was in charge of that program, Colonel Boris Sokolov, told me that their goal was to basically develop technology that would be superior to anything we had, based on what they learned from UFOs.
How much of these alleged Russian crash retrieval documents have already been physically out there? So, I mean, percentage-wise of the documents that you submitted to Congress, what was public already and what was not newly?
Maybe 1%.
Okay, so the rest of it should be predominantly new information.
Yep.
Also, can you just elaborate real quick? I know you had, I think, mentioned a Thread 3 program, but also alleged in those documents, I got through maybe half of them last night. There's a lot, and I don't speak Russian. Was there any specific programs that existed within the Soviet government or groups to specifically investigate this by name real quick?
It's a number. There's a number in those documents I gave you. There was a larger program that actually had 3 sub-programs. That was Thread 3 was the name I got, and then the DIA guys who looked at it figured out there was a much larger organization.
It's listed in those documents?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the secret's out. I mean, how many videos have there been already? You know, videos that are leaked from within the military and intelligence agencies and contractors and sensor platforms. It's out there. But they have the high ground. The people that don't want us to take it seriously dismiss it, discredit the witnesses, come up with a cover story. I mean, it's been out there a long time. The public senses that it's real, and the people in authority dismiss them. It's a game that's been going on a long time, and I don't think they're ever going to release it. I think that there's an attitude among the people that have been involved in this for a long time that the public doesn't deserve to know, and that the public probably can't handle it, but they can.
What do you think, buddy?
It's you got it. The music got a little too loud. You got to keep that turn that music down just a little bit.
Did I go overboard with the music?
Yeah, a little loud. But as far as the dude, it's obvious who UFO Gerb's hero is, dude. It's George Knapp. He's obviously talking about George Knapp. Yeah, of course. Why? How is he not? He's a reporter, isn't he? Is that what he's doing?
I don't know.
Is that what UFO Gerb does?
Well, I know he's what's his name, Jeremy Corbell's hero. I don't know if he's UAP Gerb's hero.
I bet you, because he said, I'm telling you, he was smiling back there, and
he sure was.
What does UFO Gerb do? Is he run a channel and he gives?
I think he does like UFO documentaries. UAP Gerb.
That's his fucking mentor. It's either Jeremy Corbell or it's George Knapp, one or the other.
So if George Knapp is telling UAP Gerb that there's NHI bodies in California, that's crazy.
He would be the only one telling him like that stuff. Either Jeremy Corbell or him. It only makes sense, dude. Like it's going through that channel. I swear to God, dude. I see it. I'm telling you, dude. It's when the Tim Taylor thing. I'm probably wrong about that, or it could be a fake. I don't think, but I'm telling you right now, this right here is sticking in house. This has UFO Gerb or whatever the hell his name is. His mentor is one of them dudes, and he's getting information from him. Oh yeah, I'll guarantee. Like I said, I'm almost willing to bet dollars to donuts, dude. That's how solid it is.
Now, have you heard anything on the new Grush stuff? Any of the new stuff he's come out with?
I haven't seen any of it, brother. I've been working on other stuff.
Here we go, brother. This is just for you. Okay, so I make it a point in the first couple minutes here just to point out the fact that he said, and Luna said, that he was threatened on his way into a skiff. I don't know do you recall that or not?
Mm-mm. Yeah, okay,
so none of these whistleblowers from any of these hearings for the last going on 4 years now, none of them has come to a skiff to testify. So like, remember every time they'd get like a specific question, it was, well, I have to tell you that in a skiff.
Yep.
I'm happy to tell you that in a skiff. I'll provide you that today in a skiff. Yeah. None of them have gone into a skiff.
That's
4
strange.
years. Not
That's
a single
strange.
one's gone to a skiff. Now, Luna gets pressed on why Grush hasn't. How come Grush is working for Burleson on the task force, but he still hasn't testified in a skiff?
She's my future wife, too.
Because he was, yeah, right. Because he was threatened on his way into a skiff one time. So listen to this. And then afterwards, Grush just came out last month and did a new interview with Brett Baer and said a few interesting things.
We had reached out to, said that they didn't want to testify because they were scared for their life. And these were not people that you see in the media. These were not, podcasters or anyone who's made a career talking about it. These were legitimate, former military and or military contractors. And they were literally afraid of being killed. And then you had David Grush tell us directly that he was actually, felt in fear of his life, and some weird things had happened prior to that first hearing. And then I would encourage all of you to actually reach out to him, because even just yesterday, I actually went into the skiff with David Grush and Eric Burleson. And prior to that skiff meeting happening, there was something really bizarre that took place with David Grush, and it's being handled at the law enforcement level. But, things like that happening are not normal, especially being that David Grush is currently Eric Burleson's congressional staffer.
And we have had an instance that happened with David Grush to where he was coming in to testify, or not to testify, but coming in to do a video conference with Burleson and I. And
I'll wait for you, buddy. Francis, Luna's your future wife. Get in line, buddy. You and everyone else. Luna's the only person ever had me consider switching to Republican. So no, totally kidding. We'll wait for Ryan to get back so he can continue to hear this testimony here, because this is pretty fascinating stuff. That the reason we have for not getting the classified stuff in a skiff, at least for Grush, was he was threatened, even though she says he came into a skiff afterwards. It's very confusing. And then I know that Elizondo and Mellon were supposed to go, and that's when she called them out for having skiff flu because they didn't show up. And I don't know, I haven't heard anything as far as Dylan Borland testifying in a skiff. I think what I liked about Dylan Borland is he was at least straight up about it. He was like, well, that depends on if I can tell you, and it depends on if you can hear it in a skiff. He wasn't like the rest of these cats. It was like, yeah, I'll just tell you to skiff. Because he understands that even in a skiff, you can get in trouble if you have an NDA, if you disclose information from that NDA. So even in a skiff, that's why whistleblower protections exist. Right? So like if you work for an oil or let's say a coal mining company, and they're doing all these terrible things to the environment, but you signed an NDA, well, I can't tell anyone that they're dumping, waste into the river right behind the place. I can't do that. There's an NDA. Well, that whistleblower protection is going to legally protect you. So you can say, hey, this company I work for is dumping this stuff in this river behind the plant. Steve asks, Grush literally tried to sue a county for something that was unarguably 100% legal. I have no doubt he'd file a false, exaggerated police report. I have no doubt he never filed such a report. So that's what's interesting, and one of the reasons I bring it up, and I'll wait for Ryan to get back to get into it, but there's a thing with the Capitol Police where if you have an incident with the Capitol Police and the Capitol Police get FOIA'd by a media or a journalist or something, the Capitol Police is one of the very few organizations out there that can decide whether they're going to provide that information or not. They can totally pick and choose. They're like one of 2 or 3 organizations that can do that. But if you're a whistleblower, and you are threatened or harassed in any way, and you make a police report of that, that is automatically supposed to get escalated to the FBI. And the FBI, you can FOIA stuff from the FBI right online. And I know that for a fact. And currently, I'm still waiting on results. But, ooh, I can't wait till that report comes in. I am excited for that one. Because if we find out that that story is bullshit, man, oh man. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's going to mean for how much faith and trust we can put into what Grush is saying. I know some folks have already made up their mind they're not going to listen to Grush, but I fall on the side of people are people. Nobody's perfect. People are going to make mistakes. Like, it's just part of being a human. So, like, I don't expect anybody to be perfect. But at least be truthful, right? Like, be honest with yourself and with others. And if you are being dishonest, i.e. doing a grift to make a living, then I start to go, I don't know about you so much. Okay, so Ryan's taking longer than I thought. So we're going to, now this was UAP Gerb on Jesse Michaels, and they're talking about whistleblowers here. So I thought this would be interesting and pretty relevant to what we're talking about.
Like if they have testimony, I mean, one of them that's just kind of hard to even buy into just because he's so matter of fact is Charles Hall.
Yeah.
But that's also partly because it can be difficult to listen to like the droning on
sure, yeah,
about stuff for hours.
You weren't there, but no, yeah, that's
top 4 Beatrice as well is up there.
Okay.
Beatrice, because you know hers is so scientifically backed and her research.
So top 4, as far as her testimony,
excellent.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Bottom, gosh, I'm trying to think who else.
Now this is great because he asked him to name the guests on his show that he would give the least amount of credibility to, basically.
Of course, I'm also super partial to Randy, just because I know Randy as a human and I like him very much.
Yep.
I'm very partial to Graham Hancock just because I like his.
So first, of course, he starts with a list of everybody he loves.
Work outside of the space.
Yeah, I love Graham.
A classic. It's not an interview. The T. Thompson Brown.
Oh yeah,
it's a classic.
That's I'm as high conviction as anything on that stuff. I love that.
Let me see. Kirk. Oh, yeah. Okay. Because he bullied you, Stephen Greer. I completely. That's a great episode. It's interesting, but he bullied you.
But so the weird thing with anybody, there are very few people. I think you're making this point, kind of.
Stephen Greer bullied him? I mean, I think that's just how Stephen Greer is. He's a very intense individual. I don't know if I'd say he bullied him.
Who are like fully full of shit. Because even Greer has all sorts of personality issues, you know, and like he's so much ego and like, would I want to be stuck in an elevator with that guy? No, I wouldn't. But you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like he's sitting on a lot of interesting information, anecdotes. Like he was before you. A lot of these guys kind of, you know, sitting in the black in a lot of these programs didn't have anywhere to go, and they went to him.
I look at Greer almost like an Anakin Skywalker type character.
Yeah.
He gave himself to the dark side by believing in his own theories instead of analyzing witness testimony, to then burn so many people and expose so many people and hurt so many people. What he started off with, I think, was incredibly noble intentions and true. Yeah, that's a good point. Everyone's testimony. I got.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, Stephen Greer has been in the shit for a while, and maybe you don't believe everything he says or whatever, but he's definitely faced quite a bit of opposition, scrutiny, harassment. So for UAP Gerb to say like, oh, he bullied you, Jesse, and he's Anakin Skywalker, he became Darth Vader because he believed his own shit. Well, he believes it because he's living it, dude. Like, what do you... what is he supposed to be telling people? He's confident this is what's going on and then not believe it? That would be like bullshitting, right? Like almost like grifting. So I find that interesting that a newbie is calling someone like Stephen Greer out, saying that that they're full of shit.
I got to kind of look at and be interested. I think a lowest credibility side of firsthand witness encounters right now for me is probably Charles Hall, just because it's hard for me to sit through and parse that story.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, I sat through, that was even longer than we discussed, but I wanted to make it digestible for the audience.
The Charles Hall show. Holy shit, dude. You know about Charles Hall?
I can't hear you. Hold on a second. Who?
Charles Hall. Are you familiar with Charles Hall?
Uh-uh.
Oh, man. Check this out.
And
I don't know how much of it they'll show, but so Jesse asked UAP Gerb, who is like the least credible folks that he's had on his show. And first he lists off like all these people that he loves. And then he says, Stephen Greer bullied poor Jesse. And now he's saying, Charles Hall, not a great story. I will tell you, just as a side note, Charles Hall said at one point in his interview with Jesse that there was a group of tall whites that had these suits that were of future technology, and the women, the men, and the children would morph together into a giant white horse that could run at least 100 miles an hour.
Get back. Sorry, my dog.
Yeah.
Get back, Mushy. Go that way, buddy. Let's have it.
Oh, Francis on the...
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. And I saw that what Francis just put. That's 100% true. I saw it too. Yeah, I knew they were faking. They've been proven fake by a few people, but yeah, one of the limbs had been amputated and put in front of where the finger was, or something.
What?
Yeah.
So they found a mistake basically in one of them. Is that one of the M class ones or the little ones?
They found it in both of them. The one that she's folded up.
Yeah, that's the M class, I think.
Yeah, that one. I'm gonna turn my camera off for a minute, just while I eat.
You're good, buddy. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna play. I'm gonna go back to the. This is back to the David Grush here. Now this was Luna and Grush. Here we go.
Eric Burleson's congressional staffer.
We have had an instance that happened with David Grush to where he was coming in to testify, or not to testify, but coming in to do a video skiff conference with Burleson and I. And on the way in, he had a very weird incident that happened that I've never, it's like very coincidental timing, where someone actually pulled a firearm on him as he was driving in. So, and he also too was worried about.
So that's not like, so first she said bizarre incident. And then she was like, something where law enforcement was notified. But this is the only interview where she straight up says someone pulled a fucking gun on him.
Retribution. He had been messed with extensively after he testified, even leading up to that testimony. So, yeah, we definitely know that our witnesses are putting a lot on the line by coming forward. And so that would also to push for like, we need UAP disclosure. But every time we try to put it in.
Yeah, exactly, Steve. Whatever a video skiff is. It sounds like an oxymoron, right?
Into the NDAA, it gets gutted.
You'll notice in the Schumer Amendment, they talk about transclassified foreign nuclear information, TFNI, in the Schumer Amendment. And that is not by accident, because you can imagine what that means is, say the U.S. through intelligence operations stole a foreign nuclear secret. Well, the U.S. liked that foreign nuclear secret and wanted to make it their own, so they transclassified it into a U.S. protected nuclear capability. And that's what the Schumer Amendment is trying to espouse, if you read in between the lines, that they've justified it through, these nuclear secrecy provisions. But yes, certainly private companies were involved. The specific ones I did provide to the congressional committees and the inspector general, down to specific facilities.
People say, where is the evidence? What's happening? Why don't we know more right now, almost 2 years later?
Well, certainly the last administration didn't help, and my hearing, of course, was during the last administration, and they were not exactly super transparent on this issue, unfortunately. But now that the task force has been created, I've been able to, guide the members within the boundaries of what they're actually cleared for.
When people look at this, they look online, they say, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of people talking about encounters. There's a lot of people talking about videos, and we've seen a lot of that. Can we just cut it down to, you believe that we have encountered alien beings and that they've come to Earth and that we know about it as a U.S. government?
That seems to be the case. I don't like to characterize necessarily where they came from. They're definitely some kind of non-human sentience, but it is true, believe it or not, we've recovered the vehicles, and we actually have physical proof, and I was actually partially cleared into some of those activities. It was beyond oral testimony provided to me. I actually had partial access to the data and actually read the intelligence reports resulting from those programs.
With your own eyes,
Correct.
You saw it.
Yes. Certainly members of this current administration are very, very well aware of this reality. Certainly the current president is very knowledgeable on this subject, and I trust his leadership on it.
So check this out.
Yeah.
So he had partial information on a classified class. That just doesn't even make fucking sense. Like he's like, I was partially read in on this program. What? What does that even entail?
It depends on if you look at, so like some new FOIA papers came out on what he was dealing with.
But for the evidence he's putting out, though, is what I'm saying. For what he's saying, and he only got partial. That's really that. So I wonder if he's saying that's just partial evidence. Like what is really the big fucking gusto they're talking about here? It just doesn't jive with me. How he just said that. You don't. Well, partial access.
You do a lot, 'cause like you're only going to get access to what they believe you need. Like that's how that works, right? That's why they call it stovepiping.
I understand like a little bit of that, but just the way he's putting it, the information he has, like he hadn't seen anything. He's just been told this is what I'm saying. He's been told, but it's only partial. It just doesn't. None of it jives, dude. Like I promise you, it just does not. That does not pass the smell test with me. Not even the least bit.
It might not. And I did do a request from the FBI to see if he actually had a firearm pulled on him, because if you're a whistleblower and you have a criminal complaint due to your whistleblowing, that's supposed to be automatically brought up to the FBI level. So while you can't really FOIA the Capitol Police with the big success rate, you can very easily FOIA the FBI. You can do it right online. So I put in that request a little while ago. We'll see if anything comes back. For me, I don't need the details of the report. I don't need to know what happened. None of that stuff. I don't want to dox anyone. I just want to know if it's true. Right? Like, to me, that says so much. If it's true, then David Grush has a little more, leeway with me.
You know what I
give
think?
him the benefit of the doubt a little bit more.
I
If it's
think
not,
I think he thinks it's true. I think that what they told him was probably some hocus pocus, just to either throw him off or maybe just to see if they could trust him, or for some reason that they fed him some mambo jumbo and he is just spouting it back and forth. And they're probably like, oh man, I'm really glad we didn't tell this guy about the real thing we're building over here. That's probably what's going on here.
I mean, it could be, for sure.
Yeah.
What do you, the more I look into this, the more I feel like the real thing is just classified tech.
Go on,
like classified weaponry and tech and
stealth
fighters and stuff like that.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yep, something like that. That's reasonable. Like that would be, something. Because I mean, I would want my adversary thinking that I had alien technology. It would send them off on a wild goose chase, and it'd make them like thinking that like they don't want to mess with me because I got alien shit that I can shoot your stuff down with.
And to your citizens, if they believe it, then the weird shit flying around the sky is aliens. It's not future weapons, right? It's just some weird fucking alien. So yeah, it works out good for the military when they do that.
Yep.
And I think he's assembled an A-team cabinet, and I really believe if Trump wants to be the greatest president and the most consequential leader likely in world history, he certainly has the knowledge, the capabilities, and understanding of some of these sensitive government transparency issues.
I have access, and I speak to people about it. I've had actually meetings on it. People that are very smart and very solid have said they believe there is something out there. And, it makes sense that there could be. I've never been convinced, even despite that. I just, for some reason, it's not my thing.
He certainly is very well informed on this issue.
That is so weird to hear from Trump. Like, the guy reposts crazy conspiracy theories on his, Truth Social and used to on his Twitter account. So it's crazy to hear from him. Oh, that stuff I just don't. Meh. Like, what are you talking about, dude? You're into all the weird shit. You're into all the crazy conspiracies.
Yeah, I don't know.
You made popular the phrase deep state.
Yeah, he would have said.
But you don't believe in UFOs?
No, he would have came out and said it if we had it.
Right. So makes me think maybe we don't have what some people are saying they think we have for sure.
Issue. Leave it at that. I don't want to get ahead of what the president might want to reveal personally. I was physically threatened even before I sent in my intelligence community inspector general report under the previous administration. I actually had to go and seek legal protection that way because I was, literally in fear both professionally and in my personal life. It is a very uncomfortable, even for me now, as somebody who's seen it.
And that's the other thing, Ryan. So the FOIA reports that John Greenwald got from the Black Vault just the other day, show that while David Grush's security clearance was being reviewed and was on hold while it was being reviewed, it had nothing to do with him being a whistleblower. In fact, the 3 people that were in charge of suspending it for suspicious reasons had no idea he was even testifying at the UAP hearing.
But there was something I was just going to add to that, and my dog jumped up here and grabbed my bowl. But I was going to say, oh yeah, he's so worried about all this stuff and people pulling guns on him. Yet he's on fucking national TV giving a story out, letting people know what he's wearing that day and what he looks like. And
sometimes they will tell you that's to the public. Being out in the public eye is the best way to stay safe, right? Like being relevant, letting people see you. I don't know. I've never had that problem.
I haven't either, but yeah. Hey.
So yeah, I don't know.
experienced it, even talking about it, because it's so outside a normal person's worldview to understand that there is this biological sentience that have piloted these crafts that don't necessarily look 100% like you and I.
Were there pictures? Were there?
There were. Yes, there were. I've talked to a lot of, I'll call graybeards on the program. That is a subject of hot debate on origin. As a guy trained in physics formally as well in my background, I leave an open mind on what the origin is. Certainly, there is the extraterrestrial hypothesis, and they could be coming from elsewhere off Earth, but I don't usually go there because I did not see that data, and I'm not conversant in the high confidence theories that the U.S. government had.
There are many other governments around the world. Do they know?
They have their own programs, and like I said 2.5 years ago, we have been in arms race with our peer competitors, namely Russia and China, and they have their own programs in this regard. And I was actually able to view a body of intelligence that discussed adversarial programs, and I'll leave it at that. We've seen a mixed bag of activity, and motive and intent, why they're visiting. That's, once again, that gets into our assessments, not necessarily, we can't quite understand the intent of some of the sentience and why they're visiting. Could it be because we have interesting genetic material on Earth? We're a Jurassic Park tourist attraction for them? Could be a myriad of reasons.
You've obviously faced intimidation. You talked about harassment. There are reports that others have too.
I say that there's hope. Certainly, Congress values whistleblower information right now, and certainly I believe there's an appetite with the administration to do the right thing on this as well. And there's some other things that are happening behind the scenes that I'll let the administration discuss when they're ready.
Yeah, interesting stuff there from Gresh.
Yeah, I like the UAP part right there. Said no, I have to be famous for my own safety.
Yeah, that's Steve. Exactly. Steve's awesome. I have a couple episodes ago, full episode with Steve. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, he's a lot like you. He I know when we first started chilling, you were like, dude, you're gonna get to a point where you just start to hate these people because they're not gonna present you with any evidence. And he's kind of the same way,
Take it easy,
look,
man.
I'm tired of hearing the, bullshit stories. Like, let's see some actual evidence,
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I do. And I get like constantly being let down by people, in this field is, like when I very first, after 2017, I've even said this, like, I even thought Lou was legitimate. Like, why would we not think that, right? And then you go researching and you kind of find out, oh, he's just an asshole. Like, he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh my God, like, how did a guy like that get to that level of I don't know.
That's why
celebrity
because he's an ass kisser and he's doing somebody else's bidding. 100%. Somebody else's bidding.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
I appreciate
and if you are on YouTube and you don't mess around much in the depths of UFO X and Twitter and all that, but you do see a lot out there with these cats that you don't normally see on the news, right? Like Jeff Nucatelli posting every day on X asking for people to donate to his GoFundMe and things
check
like
out,
that.
Tell Steve, check out my channel. I have a couple of new videos out that are they're getting traction. They're really, really good about some corruption in my town. But y'all check it out if anybody's
Skip Book. Yep, absolutely, dude. We're gonna have to do a show on that. Do a live stream on that.
Have you?
For sure.
Did you see the videos yet? Have you seen the videos yet?
I watched. Where am I at? I'm about halfway through the first one.
They're
good. It's
dude.
crazy, man.
I've got more comments, dude. And I've got more people that's reached out to me than you ever believe, dude. It's crazy.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you start like people can connect with that local, because they're in the town and all that stuff. And yeah, there was some stuff in my town that I thought about covering, and then I just decided it's not worth getting harassed by the police all the time. So decided not to go forward with it. But some very interesting things I found with my local authorities here.
Yeah, there's all kind of shady stuff, dude, that happens in that political circle right there, dude. It's insane, dude. Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show, like, it's not just the politicians in DC that are corrupt.
Can you link my channel for
everywhere? Dave? Yeah, I was just getting that. It's it's everywhere. Thanks, right? It's politicians at every level. All these people that get in these positions of power and in these positions of getting to make the decisions of who gets what contract and who buys what and this and that and the other, right? Like those are.
Yeah, that one, the fringe benefits and all that stuff. And the thing about the sheriff right there in my video, dude, is, and it used to be a law in my town or in the state of Alabama that they got to keep anything that the sheriff made extra from saving on the food. They get to pocket the money. And you could just see the rampant growth. There's already been like so many sheriff arrested for the same shit, dude. It's insane. Sure. Yeah, dude. Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We had in my town 3 or 4 healthy men in their 30s, 3 or 4 of them, I think 4, die in our county jail in 2 years.
Damn.
Totally healthy. And we're a small town, dude.
How'd they supposedly die?
Oh, natural causes, of course.
Oh yeah, like one of them bullet to the back of the head, hung themselves theories.
Don't know. The sheriff is investigating the death in their own jail, so that's what happens, right?
Yeah,
it's all natural.
I bet he found nothing.
Mm-hmm. So that was a story I was gonna dig into, and then I thought, honestly, I'm not a paid journalist. It's not worth the harassment, like maybe if I was a paid journo, then maybe I would do it. But the paid journalists around here won't even touch it. So that's got to tell you something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a hard guy to impress, but I think we can say, like, let's say so I don't think KLAS, the news site, would put out these documents unless they had been vetted and unless they truly believed they were the true Thread 3 documents that George Knapp brought back. I also don't think it's not all of them, because he literally said there's thousands of pages. There's 76 pages on this document. So that's not everything. It can't be. But if these are legitimate, they are the papers from the old Soviet Union. Either they went to the trouble of putting this all together to bullshit us, or they had a very, very similar program to exactly what we were doing.
I think there's something in between that. It's probably something right in between what you just said, and it has a lot to do with KLAS is a news station and they bank on people watching them. So they don't want to see a story about, this, Barney Fife crap. They want to see aliens. That's Las Vegas, dude. They're hard to impress. 51. You think I'm hard to impress, dude? They're hard to impress, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's scrutiny like around the clock there, dude. So
that's what I mean. So like I tend to think these are the legitimate, documents. Like, but I also think that doesn't mean that it's all true. It just means these are the real documents he took back, or at least part of the cache.
There's a truth in there that he did bring these back from Russia and their documents. That is true. That happened. But the legitimacy of these documents, man, I would just like have to.
It's like the legitimacy of our documents, right? Everything's questionable.
Everything is questionable. Like I say, especially, and that was a collapsing a communist country, dude. And like they were known like big time for propaganda, like just like the Nazis, dude. They were propaganda machines, dude. And they were good at it.
Yeah,
so
very good at, because they propagandize their own people. you know?
Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, definitely.
We're the big Satan over here, you know, like that's what North Korea thinks of us. We're the worst people in the world, you know, and it's all it takes is just the control of the media, you know, and then
there's a few nations that think that about us.
Yeah, and they're, you know, a lot of it is, you know, probably justifiable, you know, like, I mean, we do a lot of fucked up shit, dude.
We have definitely done some things.
But I love my country, dude. I love my country, and I would fight for my country, and I think we're the best country in the world. I just think we maybe have lost our way a little bit, but you know, we're getting back on track, dude.
Absolutely. All right, well, that's really all I had for this update. Was the you know, we had UAP Gerb saying there's NHI bodies in California. And we had Eric Davis telling us that old Pappy was briefed on the Nordics. Oh my gosh. And then of course the Thread 3 documents. Well, let's do this. We got a little bit of time left. Let's check out your video here.
Cool. Yeah, play from the beginning for the.
Let me get it.
Play the first one. You'll want to watch the second one if you play the first one too. Yeah. I mean, and they're not. One's 7 minutes, the other's 5 minutes. Yeah, they're not too long. They're good. They're really good.
It's a slow UFO news week, folks. We're gonna check out some real news here.
You're probably right, Steve.
The only time, what's Tuesday? The only time propaganda took a back seat was at the fall of the USSR. Yeah. They sold so much shit. Did you ever see that movie?
Lord of War.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Dude.
What's that money Penny made up?
Such an accurate portrayal of what happened there. I mean, they literally just sold off everything, and nobody gave a shit.
So we did. So remember this video that we're watching. This takes place in my county that I live in. I know this woman personally. I used to work for her.
And you are in Huntsville. You're in Rocket City.
Well, this is I live in Huntsville, but this took place in Decatur. But Morgan County, Huntsville is Madison County, but Morgan County is right beside it, and I'm right. I'm right in between. But yeah, but this is Morgan County. This is the town I grew up in. And it was Decatur. I grew up in Decatur. But Decatur is in Morgan County. You know, now I live right outside of there. But,
yeah, I never did get why. Like, you had some super crazy UAP footage. And I never understood how that didn't go viral. It was like 3 oval white lights that were completely silent, hovering over the trees. And like nobody gave a shit.
Nobody cared.
It's so fucking weird. Okay, so this is in your local town here. And you know, we got to keep it somewhat on the UFO theme. So folks will say this is near Huntsville, Rocket City, Alabama. So the folks
this is just doing like a call to action on my video, just to say, hey Ryan, this is what I cover. So,
that's right. Yeah. Go to Slipbook's page and subscribe if you're not subscribed. But this is taking place where a lot of our folks that send our astronauts into space and design our rockets live. So let's check it out.
Imagine this. A sheriff loans taxpayer money meant to feed inmates to a used car lot that Bernie Madoff would have found shady, and ran by a convicted felon and backed by her boyfriend, who's in law enforcement and was subsequently convicted of multiple felonies, as she walks away with just a slap on her wrist and fades into obscurity, not seeking re-election. But where most would bow out in disgrace, Anna is again seeking that coveted sheriff's badge in 2026. Maybe it's all just a big misunderstanding. Maybe the system is so corrupt that this is just the new normal. More than likely. Stick around because you're not.
Now, see, this is the only thing. I hate clowns, man. Freak me out.
I don't want to miss just how insane this story really gets.
You don't have no time.
Hi there. How you doing? You want to buy this Buick Centurion, huh?
Back in 2010, Anna Franklin shattered a glass ceiling, becoming the first female sheriff in Morgan County. She campaigned on strong leadership and reform, positioning herself as a fresh voice in a male-dominated arena. Fast forward to her tenure. What do we find? Not exactly the beacon of integrity one might hope for. The crux of the controversy revolves around Alabama's outdated law at the time, which allowed sheriffs to pocket surplus funds from inmates' meal budgets. Think of it as a perverse incentive. Cut corners on feeding those in custody and keep...
How is that even a thing?
I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? That's fucking nuts. Dude.
Are they just getting bologna sandwiches as it is? Like, how could you possibly...
Dude, they did that. They gave them corn dogs, nothing but corn dogs and bologna for like 3 months, dude.
Oh my God.
Keep it changed. In 2015, Franklin withdrew $160,000 from the jail's food fund, money that, per a 2009 federal decree, was supposed to benefit inmates or revert to the county. Instead, she loaned $150,000 to Priceful Partners LLC, a used car dealership that turned out to be a Ponzi scheme. Here's where it gets practically egregious.
I understood that the consent decree of 2001 absolutely was part of my taking over as sheriff. I understood that it was my obligation to meet and or exceed every single provision of that. And it's been my sincere desire to do that and to in no way disrespect the court or the court orders or the order of Judge Clemens. In that same year that I removed the money to do an investment, it was to recoup money that I had lost during the feeding of the inmates that year. I lost over $21,000 in that time period during the feeding of the inmates in an attempt to feed them over and beyond what the consent decree was required of me. So that money was removed. It was supposed to be for a short time. And the interest that was supposed to be earned on that was to recoup some of the losses and be placed back into the food account. It's also important to note that the food account that everyone keeps talking about is by state law in my name personally, and that I'm personally responsible for the feeding of the inmates and the management of the kitchen and being able to utilize the funds that
This is so good. Because this is like the shit I would see in my town. For real.
The state gives me to feed the inmates in a adequate way.
Well, obviously the inmates weren't fed properly or you wouldn't have been sued, which you lost. So what were you doing with the money? It just makes you wonder what she was actually doing with it.
Recouping losses.
The dealership was owned by Greg Stinson, a man with a prior felony conviction for theft. And guaranteeing that high-interest loan was none other than Steve Zaya, Franklin's boyfriend at the time, an agent with the Alabama Bureau of Investigation. You heard that right. An ABI agent.
You know what we're going to do?
What?
Because this is a UFO space, I feel bad that we're doing. So let me do this. I'm going to end this space and then we're going to launch a new one and we're going to talk about this craziness. So folks, if you're watching, we'll be back in just a few. Thanks for hanging out, watching. If you missed the UFO updates, like if you're just joining us now, just go back, watch the first part of it. We're going to end this stream and we're going to start a new one talking about this craziness in Ryanstown. So we'll see you all in a few.
Y'all come. Yeah, y'all show up.
Y'all come back now here.